We're now live on YouTube.
Okay, thank you. Well, welcome members, officers, and anyone joining us from the public. First item on the executive agenda. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chairman. There are no apologies.
Okay. Okay. Members of the executive, just to confirm the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of December and 15th of December. Are you happy for me to sign those?
Agreed.
Yeah, thank you. I will do. And I'm next in the office. Okay. Are there any declarations of interest of any of the items we're going to be discussing this evening? That's for anybody, whether they're on the executive or not. Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, this is for the record, which is under item 5. So this is a non-pecuniary interest, which I don't formally have to declare, but I will. My sister works for Catalyst, so as a family member, she works for them.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bates. Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, it's just that I'm a trustee on Surrey Heath Age Concern.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Councillor Tapper.
Yes, I'd just like to notify non-pecuniary interest in item 8. I have a personal interest. I have an electric car.
Okay. All right. Councillor Galliford.
I declare the same in that case. Thank you.
Not entirely sure that needed to be, but I am pleased that people are driving electric cars. I'm considering one when my next car changes. Councillor Deitch.
Thank you. I suppose I should declare that I am the County Council representative on the Basingstoke Canal Joint Committee.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think in case that sparks a number of others, it's a matter of record that a number of us sit on different panels and committees that may be represented tonight. Councillor Jennings-Evans. Nope. Okay. You were there and then you were gone, Councillor Jennings-Evans. I'll just go to Councillor Malvaginam in the meantime.
Thank you, Leader. Just to say that I have been involved with Camberley Care Trust in the past. Not anymore, but in the past, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me now, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead, Rebecca.
Thank you. So obviously, just as executive portfolio holder with spaces, I am obviously on the Surrey Heath Sports Council.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Okay. This could end up being one of the longer items on the agenda. And I will declare as well that non-pecuniary interest, my wife is chairperson of the Surrey Heath Age Concern. Okay. Right. Okay, moving on then. Item 4, are there any questions by the members for the leader or portfolio holders? Okay, I think I've got everyone on. Councillor Malvaginam, yeah?
Maybe I could cover this later. It's, I have a question on citizen advice, Surrey Heath, that section. It's to do with opening up offices elsewhere other than in the last 2, in the current ones. Maybe I could bring it up later.
Yeah, Councillor Malvaginam, you're spot on. I think this item is for anything that's not covered by the agenda. So if you're happy to hold that, I'll make sure I come to you when we discuss it. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, fine. Moving on. First item then of substantive move, item 5, revenue grants. That's Councillor Josephine Hawkins. Just before we start, how are you feeling, Councillor Hawkins?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am feeling a little better. It's been 3.5 weeks since I tripped over the rug in the kitchen and fell on the concrete floor, which is, I probably should have gone down to A&E, but in the current circumstances, I was a little wary. So I've had a rough time, but I'm slowly getting back, and I appreciate your help and support. You know, we're meetings I haven't been able to go to. I really appreciate that, but it's a struggle, but I'm getting there. So thank you.
Josephine, I appreciate the fact that you've come to the executive tonight. Okay, and I know that you're still hurting, you're still in pain.
Mm.
All right, if it's sitting or whatever starts to become unbearable, then just give me a shout and I'll be more than happy to excuse you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, right. You're right.
Leader, can I just say that Graham Alloway had his hand waving regarding questions earlier?
Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Alloway. Sorry, Josephine.
That's okay.
Yeah, it wasn't an earth-shattering question, but hey ho, as I've got the chance. Many members would be aware that the Surrey Heath Parking Group is conscious of the imminent DfT Department for Transport consultation conclusions regarding pavement parking ban, or more likely restrictions. Many residents, such as the elderly, mobility device users, parents with buggies, complain that the safe use of footways is severely impeded by inconsiderately parked vehicles. And I have a gallery of examples I can share. The planning and council services procurement functions can play a part in tackling this blight and improving the quality of life for those affected. Are there any measures being considered to contribute to the Department for Transport objective of improving footway pedestrian access? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Alloway. I know that they're out for consultation right now, as you just said, and I know that we will be responding to that. And I believe there was a parking, I'm not going to say working group, but parking consultation group that happened just recently. I wonder if I can ask an officer to just give an update on that.
I should be able to help Kieran Bartlett, Planning Policy Officer. We ran a working group for a parking standards SPD, and that will take into account the parking standards through planning. So the workshop was to really get councillors' views on parking issues in the borough. So I hope that helps.
Good. Okay, thank you. Okay. Can I just say, we've had more members join us, and so I'm now on 2 screens. So feel free to call out if you are wanting to ask a question or something. Sorry, that's how I missed you, Councillor Alloway. You were on my 2nd screen. But I see you've now been promoted to the 1st screen, so that's good. Okay, not entirely sure how that works. Okay, right, Councillor Hawkins, Josephine. All right, over to you again.
Am I still on page 1? Excellent.
It's still on page 1, revenue grant.
I can be reserved if you like. Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members. Tonight we're considering the council annual revenue grant scheme for community-based organisations from the 1st of April to the 31st of March 22. This past year has seen impacts to all our lives from the pandemic that we would not think possible. However, we as a council have retained support to the organisations during this time. And to complement that, we have introduced further funding support in the guise of COVID grant scheme, amongst others, as a way of bridging the gap to retain the crucial voluntary services that are delivered locally. This revenue grant scheme appeals to many organisations due to the funding being used to cover the core costs, opposed to some specific project. This year, we've received applications from groups helping people in their daily lives or contributing to the community through the arts, sport, or access to the natural environment. The awards are based upon a cash budget being available of 200,000, and this presupposes that the council budgets agreed are retained at this previous year's level. All awards made are linked to service level agreements to ensure that changing local priorities and needs continue to be met. As a brief resume, a review undertaken in 2019 with some changes implemented from April 2020 and the openness of the application process plus, where organisations undertook work on behalf of the council. It was agreed by the council executive to ring fence, can't even say it, their funds, with the aim of providing a greater degree of security for a 3-year period. This specifically relates to the Citizens Advice Surrey Heath awarded 80,000, Blackwater Valley Countryside Partnership 10,000, and the Basingstoke Canal Authority each awarded 10,000. As with all the applications, the details of each one is provided with your papers, together with the recommendations that these 3 grants are funded at the levels previously mentioned. These are lines A, I, and J. Lines B to H, which include voluntary support in Surrey, who over the past year worked Surrey Heath Prepared during the first lockdown period and has continued to offer support to the legacy organisations that now operate in many wards following the close of Surrey Heath Prepared during the summer. The organisation's portfolio also includes training courses, of which 10 have been delivered, all without charge to local groups, governance and policy advice, a grant finder scheme, regular updates to their considerable network, and a volunteer bureau. On this, it is worth outlining that when you refer a volunteer, a guarantee cannot be provided that a successful placement excuse me, will follow through from this. For all sorts of reasons, it may not. I'm also advised that the council are working in partnership with Voluntary Support North Surrey to introduce a new COVID champion service, which will recruit local volunteers to act as advocates to help dispel the incorrect rumours and myths relating to the coronavirus pandemic. This is scheduled to be launched on the 21st of January. The telephone befriending service and other support is provided by Surrey Heath Age Concern, is invaluable to older clients who live alone and are isolated through the lockdown. Special mention of thanks to manager Tracer Hinney and her team, who have worked throughout in maintaining regular contact. The Rainbow Cafe is closed at the present time, and the organisation is in receipt of regular grants to compensate for this loss of income. Cambrian District Job Club has been impacted during the year with their frontline service delivery. However, virtual options have been delivered on all the local unemployment levels rapidly increasing, which is suggested that support continues for this local group who have helped all those in need to find employment. Catalyst Support, who have been severely impacted by the COVID restrictions, and the original grant award of 4,000 for the Welcome Wizards football team has paid 1,000 so far, based upon the activity being hosted for 3 months only. With the present lockdown, it is unlikely that this will restart anytime soon. The Hope Hub services have continued throughout, and due to our internal funding streams, changing this is the underlying increase on the 2020 award. The consistency in funds will ensure that this complex and high-risk vulnerable group of homeless people continue to be supported. Time to Talk project works well with Surrey Heath Age Concern in meeting the local demands of referrals from any age group who are isolated and at present are restricted in delivering a telephone befriending service. But when these are lifted and it is safe, both organisations will commence with the home visits. It is recommended that all of the above lines B to H are agreed at the level suggested, and that the grant relating to the Autism Trust be delegated to the Executive Head of Transformation and myself, following further information to be provided by the applicant. In relation to the applicants, Pennyficent Limited, I probably said that wrong, Camberley Care Trust, Camberley Cricket Club, and Creative Mind Community, it's suggested that we do not offer awards from the reasons outlined within the agenda, and that for this year, we do not award funds to Lightwater Connected, but do invite them to apply next year. Finally, it is noted that the Surrey Heath Arts Council chose not to apply for a revenue grant for this financial year. I hope that introduction helps, Mr. Chairman.
That's excellent, thank you. Okay, so we'll open it up to questions and points. I see that Councillor Deitch has got his electronic hand up. Efficient as always, Councillor Deitch.
Thank you, Leader. And could I encourage everybody to do that? Things would run a lot more smoothly if we all did that. But anyway, just like to thank you, Councillor Hawkins, for that detailed report, and support all the things that you said there. We do find ourselves, don't we, in extraordinary times, and some of the grants that you've facilitated there will definitely go a long way with some of the organisations in our community. And I'd also like to thank the officers, in particular Jane Boytolt, for all her work with all the support organisations for the relief effort. So, but I just wanted to speak about the Basingstoke Canal. Now, there's a lot of, let's say, misunderstandings as to the finances of the Basingstoke Canal Authority and the Basingstoke Canal Trust. and I just wanted to ask the leader, if I may, to make sure that the meeting that he was supposed to have, and I know there were good reasons why that hasn't happened with COVID in between and everything else, that the meeting that I facilitated between him and the previous chairman of the Basingstoke Canal Joint Committee, that's now changed. There's a new chairman now, Councillor Natalie Bramall. Could I ask you to get a meeting together with her as soon as possible, so that you can fully understand the financial situation of the Basingstoke Canal, because I know that it appears that they're cash rich because they have such huge reserves, but there's a good reason for that. And I think it's really important that we as a council understand exactly what the position is there, so that we can make sure that that incredible community resource that we all benefit from continues in the way that we all hope it would. So if you could just comment on that, please, Leader.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Deach. Yeah, you're right. I had arranged to meet the previous chair. I think it was February of 2020, shortly after I became leader. And obviously, within about 2 weeks, COVID had started to rear its ugly head. And the chair and I agreed that we would put the meeting off for what I think I remember saying was a few weeks, maybe a couple of months, while we deal with COVID, right? And yeah, here we are now, 12 months later. I'll be happy to write to the new chair, resurrecting the meeting. And I guess now there's nothing to stop us having it by Zoom.
That's right.
Okay. No problem.
Can I make a comment on that, Mr. Chairman and Councillor Deach? Is that I understand the Basingstoke Canal Society did join the Surrey Heath Lottery last year, and I believe they also support the Basingstoke Canal. But perhaps Councillor Deach and the Basingstoke Canal could sort of get people to sign up to the lottery, because I don't think they've sold any tickets as yet, but I know they do support with various fundraising things. But I think the lottery would be a great thing to get them involved in.
Yeah, they are separate organisations, of course, and one supports the other. But
they do support them.
But you're absolutely right. We should all get behind that, and I will try to
if you could try to push that, that'd be brilliant. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Councillor Hawkins on the grants? Councillor Bates?
Thank you. I just put my hand up as opposed to the virtual one, but I'll try and remember for next time. I've got two questions, really. One is regarding the fact that within certain of the different proposals that are being made, there are phrases such as unrestricted grants and general reserves, and they're different. So I think we just need to understand or the executive need to understand when making decisions about this, the level of unrestricted reserves that an organisation may have. And the points have actually been well made just now regarding one particular organisation, because it's not actually clear what their levels of unrestricted reserves actually are. And that's absolutely critical, because it doesn't matter how many hundreds of thousands of pounds they've got in the accounts. If that is all committed for some specific purpose, capital or whatever it might be, then actually that does not give a day-to-day understanding of the work of the charity. So I would probably suggest for next year, when looking at the charities or the next time this is reviewed, that you actually put on there what are the levels of unrestricted reserves in terms of the amount of months that the charity can reasonably operate without needing this grant. The second question I just wanted to make, and I'm slightly reluctant to make this because I'm not the ward member for this area, and there may be very good reasons for this in terms of why this isn't proposed, but it did strike me as slightly surprising that we are deciding to decline rather than defer the application for from Light Water Connected. Now, I completely agree that we can't give them any funds at this stage because of the reasons of being incomplete. But it doesn't strike me that that would necessarily take very long for that group to be formally constituted, at least based on the paperwork, and there may be other members who know a lot more than I do about it. But I just wonder whether for that particular application, that yes, we shouldn't give them any money tonight. I agree with that. but that actually, if or when they do actually formally constitute, that you as an executive may look at that particular application, but rather than in 12 months' time, look at it where if or when that actually does arise. Because this is important work that's going on now in terms of COVID, and is a relevant charity for the particular aspects of the next 12 months. So it seems a bit of a pity if we have to wait 12 months in order to give them any money. So as I say, others may know more than me, but it just struck me as odd.
Okay, thank you. All right, two good points. Councillor Hawkins, are you happy with Councillor Bates's first suggestion?
Yeah, I take that on board. It's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely take that on board. As
Am
far
I
as like,
right in saying there's going to be a review of all of our grant systems soon?
there is a review to some extent in February. Yes, I'll be going through that with yourself and Mrs. Linson and Jane Boytott in a couple of weeks, so then we can discuss things. But as far as Light Water Connected, we do have to have a cut-off date for when applications come in. I think we do give people quite a bit of time in advertising. It's not from the information I have, it's not a registered group, and we haven't had any of the finances provided. And we do have to make some kind of rules and regulations as to to how we're going to set these things up. As to whether we open it further in the year, I don't know, because we did increase the amount of the revenue grants from 160,000 to 200,000 last year, which is what we spent. And I think we do have to have a cut-off point. So I mean, there is always, of course, the community grants, which if it is for a specific project as opposed to a revenue, which is what I think it was a cricket club, Camberley Cricket Club, which is what we suggested they do as rather as a revenue one. So maybe we can help them with a different form of grant later in the year. No. Jane, have you got anything you could add to that on the Light Water one?
Yes, I can add to it. I actually made a phone call to the applicant because the application was incomplete, and that was partly why I recommended that perhaps on this occasion we declined, because when I spoke to the applicant, they indicated that they would consider withdrawing the application, but that never came to fruition, and I never received any further information, even though I acknowledge the merits of the application. So it seemed perhaps the best way to pursue it at the moment would be to acknowledge the positivity around it and then invite them to apply next year. I know that they are seeking other grants from alternative sources, because tomorrow the council are involved in launching something called the Innovation Conference, and they will be there. So they are spreading their wings in the nicest possible way.
Okay, but I definitely, Councillor Bates, I think you make a good point, and I think we'll keep an eye on that. Okay, Councillor Mulvaginam.
Thank you, Chair. I've got about 3 points. I'll take one at a time. If Councillor Hawkins can answer them as we go along, that'll be best. With regarding the citizens' advice, Surrey Heath, I mean, I've looked up there are two sub officers, so to speak, one in Bagshot, one in Chobham, I believe. I can't understand why we can't have another office, say, to the other side of the borough, like in Frimley or Frimley Green, or even in Deepcut. That'll actually help those residents as well, because they don't have to come into town. They can do on an appointment basis. They can actually go and visit these. Maybe the council should consider this alongside Citizens Advice Bureau to see how best we can utilize the offices. We may have empty offices or libraries there, for example, in Frimley Green, that can be used for a drop-in session.
I've not heard of any requests from them. I mean, it's certainly something that we could look at if we do have the buildings. I'm not sure if Jane Waters has had anything, as she is the main contact, but I myself have not heard anything direct from them. But I mean, it is certainly an idea. to have them across the borough, because as you say, it would save people coming into Camberley. I'm not even sure how many people, you know, going to the Chobham and Bagshot offices. Would you have any idea how well these are, how well attended? Well, I suppose not at the moment, but how they are attended?
Mrs. Boytold?
Yes, so the offices or the outreach services that are provided at Bagshot and in Chobham aren't operating at the moment because of obviously the you know, the COVID restrictions, and it was based upon the inquiries that were coming in, which dictated perhaps the demand to provide the outreach service. But yes, we can certainly look at providing the services to other parts of the borough, although, you know, Frimley is much closer to Camberley, but you know, we can certainly have those discussions with Citizens Advice when they are open again to the public, because as you would have seen from the report, most of the services now that they're providing are all sort of virtual or over the phone. You know, the one-to-one, the face-to-face you know, support is, you know, is not very regular. It's only in sort of extreme circumstances because of, you know, because of the position.
Yeah, I think yeah, an office is more important when we return to normal. But Councillor Malvagnam's point, we don't actually control Citizens Advice, do we? We fund them, but we don't control them. But if you would bring up the point, if it makes a good point, they're only covering a portion of the borough in offices. If they were looking to expand to the rest of the borough, I'm sure we would support that. So, Councillor Malvagnam, your second point?
The second point relates to I know Councillor Hawkins touched upon it, the service level agreements. I mean, in page 12, Councillor Hawkins, I want you to look at 2.3. It says service level agreements were introduced in 2013. I also note every segment or every section, there are separate service level agreements. Is it a sort of a overall a catch-all service agreement which was looked at in 2013? If so, shouldn't it, I think it's time for us to relook at that whole catch-all service level agreement. Wouldn't that be a good idea?
Yeah, Councillor Hawkins, yeah, I think, go on.
I'm not aware that, you know, do we need to have to redo it all? I'm not aware.
I think to be fair, the service level agreements were introduced in 2013, but every service level agreement is unique to the organisation that we're dealing with. So they'll have their own targets, and they're reviewed annually by Councillor Hawkins and Mrs. Boytold.
Yes, I mean, it is, you know, it does go through quite a lot of the information, and I know Jane spends a lot of time going through the service level agreements. I mean, there is a standard form, but then she does, you know, sort of go the extra mile to make sure every single thing is covered, so that, you know, we are protecting the organisation and also obviously the residents' money or the council's money.
Okay,
I suspected so.
Yeah,
I just wanted to highlight the fact that it's actually stated there in 2013. I understand what the leader is saying. I suspected that was the case.
Yeah.
Actually, then on to Basingstoke Canal Authority, which Councillor Deitch is a representative on behalf of the county. I don't know whether we have this answer. I know we are providing funds for them. What's other sort of contributions coming from other authorities around which actually the Basingstoke Canal actually goes through? I mean, are we the only one, which I know we are not? And what kind of parity do the others do it in?
To be honest with you, I don't have the information to hand, but I do know other boroughs used to contribute different amounts. It depends where you were. I used to be on the Basingstoke Canal committee. And so I had some background information then, and it did say what different authorities did it. I know there was some issues over, I think they changed the format as to how people were charged, and that, you know, it depends how many people go along the Basingstoke Canal, and it was all changed. So which there was some issues over, but I don't have to hand what the other authorities were. I'm sure maybe Councillor Deitch has this, or if it's something that you need, we can get it to you in the future. But this would be direct from the Basingstoke Canal. I'm not sure this has any bearing. You know, it's a case of what money we have, you know, sort of as an authority.
Right.
Sorry.
Councillor Mulvagon, two things. One is I'm going to let Councillor Deitch, because he seemed to be nodding he had some information. But before he does that, Councillor Jennings-Evans just wants to make a quick declaration. And then I'll go to Councillor Wheeler for her question.
And sorry, can I also say, Mr. Chair, Ben Sword is on this call, so he would be able to help with the Basingstoke Canal. So he may be able to give more information on that.
Okay, Councillor Jennings-Evans.
Thank you. Just to say that I also, in my declarations, I am also a volunteer with Lightwater Resilience Plan, which is part of Lightwater Connected. Thank you.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Deitch.
Yeah, only just to say, Councillor Mulvagon, it really does vary quite a lot depending on the authority. Some give less, some give more. I know that Hampshire give probably more than we do. It really does depend on the authority, but actually, if you go onto the Basingstoke Canal Authority website, I'm pretty sure all that sort of stuff is broken down. And if you want an absolute chapter and verse, it's very easy to get for you.
Okay.
Thank you. Can I add something to this conversation, please?
Okay, but that's okay. But this is going to be your fourth question. I've got Councillor.
I didn't realize you were counting. Well, it's a valid point I want to make, because at the end of the day, if you're actually contributing to Basingstoke Canal and other authorities also contributing, isn't that a point that the executive should know as to how much others are contributing? So we may be over contributing, or we may be under contributing. We don't know, or we are just giving a figure which year in, year out that comes up. So that's the fourth question to you, Leader. Would you take it upon yourself to look at it?
I can tell you, I certainly am happy to look at it. And as Councillor Deitch was saying, I know that some local authorities pay less, some pay more. I know that Basingstoke Canal Authority has asked us pretty much every year to increase our amount to 25,000 from 10,000. A lot of what they are looking for is based on how much of the canal runs through your borough. And therefore they come up with a number. But I'll be more than happy to look into that when I have the meeting with the new chair. I'm gonna move on now, if that's okay, to Councillor Wheeler.
Thank you, Chair. It was just really just to pick up on, just to give a little bit of an explanation really back to Councillor Mulvagon, in that part of the reason that we have people come out to Chobham specifically is because people in Chobham can't get to Camberley. So there is no bus service, no train service, no public transport that connects us to Camberley. And our residents who can get to Woking for citizens' advice don't fall into that citizen advice's area. So that's the reason why, because obviously the more we split the volunteers at citizens' advice across multiple areas, the less efficient they are. So it was just to give a little bit of background on it, if that helps.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to bring that to a close. I'm not hearing or seeing any more questions for Councillor Hawkins. So I'm going to ask the members of the executive. We're being asked to resolve that small 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 be accepted. Are we happy to do so?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, moving on to one of my favourites, climate change. Okay, Councillor Mansfield, it's your paper.
Thank you, Leader. Good evening, members. Good evening, officers, and good evening, Madam Mayor. You'll see before you, this paper is to do with the climate change action. And I think, Leader, you referred to earlier, you said the line pre-COVID and return to normal. Well, if we go back in time, pre-COVID, this was obviously an extremely hot topic with our residents and also a great concern of our council. So in summary, this is to agree the business case for council membership of APSI and APSI Energy, following the recommendations of the Climate Change Working Group that was held on the 3rd of December. And I pay thanks to the officer Kieran Bartlett in that and the work that he has done. This is a very serious issue that we're facing. It's constantly in the news when COVID isn't. You will see attached to the paper, members, that the outline, it's just like being back in the NHS, you know, anachronism. The APSE is the Association for Public Service Excellence, for those that wish to ask that. The Climate Change Action Plan is currently being developed in consultation with the Climate Change Working Group. As I say, we have had a working group member meeting on the 3rd of December. The aim of the action plan is to work towards achieving the ambitious net zero carbon emission target by 2030 as an organisation, and contribute to making the borough net zero by 2050. The details really are outlined in the paper that's attached, which is the APSE Energy Prospectus. And really what the paper is, the recommendation is to agree to join the APSE organisation, and it's proposed that there is no revenue budget at this moment, but it would be the agreement to put a revenue opportunity forward of which would be £4,669 per year. That's outlined on page 41. All the details of this, the corporate objectives and the key priorities are: membership of the APSE Energy will assist the council in delivering the climate change action plan and meeting the 2030 carbon neutral target set by the climate emergency declared in 2019. You will see the opportunities that will be made to us that are outlined between page 49 through to 60. So really, with the help of the officer, if members would like to ask any questions, I think there are many questions concerning this subject, but we must join, I believe, APSE to gain more knowledge, but to also work more as a group across the UK as a council group. So, members, I ask for questions. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Councillor Tapper.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'm very encouraged by this move. I believe that access to existing experience and knowledge it can only be advantageous to the climate change action group coming to the council to make recommendations that will take the council forward in the appropriate direction. I'm just a little bit concerned about the actual action plan itself. Are we to understand that until the action plan in its totality is agreed by the working group, that it won't be published at all, and that no actions that they will be recommending in the action group will actually start to be put into action until that point? Or are we going to have the option that partial recommendations from the action plan can be brought before the council to take action before the entire report is completed? Thank you,
I take the point that you're making there. Yeah. Now, the Climate Change Working Group is a working group of the executive, and we would act upon the recommendations of the working group. Do we have the chair of the working group happen to be on this evening? I believe it's Peter. No. Okay. Well, let me answer from the executive point of view. Sorry, Councillor Mansfield. I think it's more directed at me than at you about the paper there. I think that, as I say, it's a working group of the executive. I would want the recommendations, as we all would. We'd want the recommendations to come, as it were, Councillor Tapper, thick and fast from the working group, and the officers are not sitting around waiting for instructions. They're already looking at whatever is coming out of the working group, so that we're already at least in preparation, if not actually in development. Okay, but I can assure you the intention is not to sit and wait for an entire printed copy to come out, and then we'll start actioning it. Okay, there's a reason we use the word crisis, and it's difficult to stay motivated when it's sort of decades away. But you know, we need to be working on it now. So thank you for that. Councillor Bates.
Thank you. Yeah, the chair is actually Councillor Rise, but just in terms of specific point, there is another meeting of the working group on the 4th of February. So I'm not sure if Councillor Rise isn't on the call to be able to outline whether that plan will be ready for that meeting, but there will certainly be a report after that, which will be reported back to the executive in the same way that there are some matters in the confidential papers which you'll be aware of.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there are no more questions about the paper recommending we join the APSI and APSI Energy, Councillor Mansfield.
Yeah, it's sort of partly in answer to Councillor Tapper a moment ago, and also to with regards to Councillor Bates. I first of all, Leader, I fully endorse exactly what you say, obviously, but the point here is to actually it gives us the opportunity of actively working closer with a group that is committed to assist local government in change as regards, working together to formulate ideas. One of the ideas is to really push forward the need for electric charging points, whether they be in town centre, but part of a planning process. And by joining this organisation, we'll be able to hasten these opportunities. As I say, unfortunately, because of pandemic circumstances, this has gone off the radar. And what we can't allow to do is to allow this to backstep. We want to go forward, Surrey Heath, to really engage in this crisis that's coming before us. And this gives us an opportunity to engage. And I don't want to hold back to any other meetings, because there's some excellent work going on in the background, and this will help support that work by the officers and the team and the cross group of members in getting that forward. Thank you. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Councillor Duggan.
Leader, I didn't really want to speak. I simply was trying to vote early.
Oh, sorry, that was right. Okay, right. Okay, right, if there are no more questions, all right, members of the executive, we're being asked to resolve that Surrey Heath Borough Council becomes a member of APSI and APSI Energy. Are we in agreement?
Agreed.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's unanimous, thank you. Okay, all right. Wheelchair swing, item 7 in Frimley Lodge Park. Councillor Jennings-Evans, if your Wi-Fi holds up.
Thank you, Leader. Hopefully this will be a quick and easy item. As you know, we first agreed to consider a wheelchair swing back in September as part of the discussion on the Lowman Road Playground project. It was then added to the capital budget in last month's executive report, but we are now in a position to progress with the installation utilising SIL monies from Mitchett and Deep Cut funds. This has been discussed with the ward councillors and has their full support, and enables us to have an appropriate audit trail for this funding. I'm therefore asking the executive to resolve little I and little 1 and little 2 of the recommendation, and to increase the capital programme by 28,000 to include the wheelchair swing at Frimley Lodge Park.
Thank you. So we're open to questions now. Councillor Deitch, I know this is near and dear to your heart. You've spoken on this swing many times. I think by now you could have learned to carve the thing yourself. Right. Okay.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, it is a matter close to my heart. It's something that I've been working on for quite a long time. And there's a particular young resident who is an adult, actually, a young adult, who when first wrote to me about this a couple of years ago and said, it's not just children that like to use the swings, adults do too. And there isn't a swing that I can use in my wheelchair anyway, not just in this borough, in the county, I think. There is one apparently over in just over the border in Berkshire. But so thank you for this recommendation. I'm absolutely certain every member of the executive is going to support this. And I'm happy that let's say the cross-party collaboration that we all signed up to when at the last council term you know, working with Councillor Whitcroft and Councillor Rice, that we've managed to get this through as quick as possible. There's one other thing though, and you know, I've asked for this and I've got it, and you know, you have to keep asking for more and more and more. And interestingly, I had an email from another disabled resident only last week to say that about a swing, and I said, yeah, it's coming any day now. We're going to get an announcement on it. And the resident said, well, it would also be nice to have suitable footpaths in Frimley Lodge Park to accommodate wheelchair users. The current surface is not suitable for a lot of wheelchair users. And I think that as that we're getting this disabled swing, why don't we become a borough that really does support our disabled residents and make sure that the facilities are what they expect and can use usefully. So I hope that all the members in this meeting today, executive or otherwise, will support that going forward. We're now pooling the SIL situation, is my understanding. So there's no reason why we all couldn't get behind that. And I think our disabled residents do deserve better. And I think that we are the ones that can enable that. So I hope you would all support that, especially the executive. So thank you very much.
Would Councillor Jennings-Evans, if you'd like to respond,
Yes.
and then I'll go to Councillor Bates.
Yes, Councillor Deitch, I'd be more than happy to ask Daniel and the team to look into the feasibility of making the pathways at Frimley Lodge Park more disabled accessible. And it would be lovely to think that we could eventually, subject to funds, make Frimley Lodge Park a flagship for our disabled residents.
Music to my ears. Music to my ears. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. And before I come to you, Councillor Bates, can I? Sorry. Okay. Councillor Deitch took his hand down. I wanted to just spend a brief moment just reminding him to take his hand down, but he did it. Councillor Bates.
Thank you. This is one of those examples of when actually I think everyone will be in agreement, and I think it's also right when things are good that we recognise that things are good, and I think this is a very good idea. I'm pleased to see it happen because I've always taken the view, I used to be a youth leader, that every child is important. It doesn't matter what your abilities or disabilities may be, you always have the right to play, and it's right that we recognise that as a council. But I also think a very good point has just been made regarding accessibility to get to the swing. And that's something that shouldn't be underestimated. So we've got the swing in place for children to play, but this issue about keys, which is highlighted in 1.3, the issue about pushing people to get to the swing, we shouldn't underestimate that. And we obviously want disabled children and disabled adults as well to play on this, but they need to be able to get to it. And they need to be able to access it. And it'd be a real disappointment if somebody goes there with the intent of enjoying family time together, only to find that they can't find the groundsman and the cafe is closed. So we don't want that. We want to have an arrangement where everybody can go and enjoy the facility that has been put there.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Jennings-Evans, do you want to? Yep.
Yes, I was simply going to point out that whilst I wholeheartedly agree about the accessibility, we also need to be mindful that unfortunately things like disabled swings are prone to vandalism, and I'm sure Daniel will correct me, which is why it's really important that the key is kept in a secure way, and it is under lock and key to ensure that it's there for the disabled residents to utilise, and they are the ones that particularly need it, and that it doesn't get abused by others.
Can I also say, just from my experience, I've been in a business that happens to make disabled toilets. The radar key that we're talking about, I believe, will probably be held as a spare, because people who are disabled can actually purchase or are given a radar key and can carry it around, because that's how they gain access to disabled toilets, and they don't have to go off and find somebody to get the key. They carry the key with them, and it can gain entry. So I think my understanding is the key that will be held by the groundsman will actually be a spare if anybody needs it, rather than that. Councillor Whitcroft, I see your hand up.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to start by agreeing with Councillor Deitch. It's certainly we've had our disagreements over the years, but we certainly, the three of us have managed to come together and work really quite well on this one, which is obviously important for the residents. Whilst we're discussing it, the park at the moment is incredibly waterlogged. Unfortunately, there were a couple of accidents in there yesterday where around the children's playground. I mean, obviously the rain has been exceptional again in the last week or so, but there is an issue down there at the moment that needs to be, that does need to be looked into. Do we, and a question please, if I may, for Councillor Jennings-Evans, do we have two things? Do we have any idea yet whereabouts in the park it's going to go? And do we have any idea please of a timescale?
I will refer that to Daniel because he's aware of the timescale more than I am.
Thank you, Councillor Jennings-Evans. Yes, the location of it, we haven't got an exact position yet. It will be in the proximity of the main play area because obviously we want it to be inclusive. So whoever's using it is feeling like they're part of that space. But there isn't an exact space yet. That will be discussed when we have because obviously this will have to go out to tender. We need to get contractors in to deliver this piece of specialist equipment, and the positioning of it will be discussed as part of that. In terms of timescale, I mean, subject to call in, which I doubt very much this will be called in by the positivity that's been expressed tonight. But the team are poised, they're ready to go. We just needed this final confirmation tonight that it would be this funding would come from SIL money from the Mitch and Deepcut Ward. If this is agreed tonight, then the team can crack on with this in the next couple of weeks, and it's just a case of the tender process. But hopefully by the spring, there's no reason why we wouldn't be able to get that in place.
Thank you. Sorry, I should have said I've been asked by Parity, who some of you will know. Parity have one of their day centres down in Mitchett Grove, which is just off the main Mitchett Road. And having this swing in the park at the lodges absolutely could not be more perfectly positioned for them. So I have been asked to pass thanks on because obviously once COVID sorts itself out and they're back to their normal, they're on reduced at the moment, sorry, and they're back to their normal sort of timetable as such. They're looking forward to utilising it. So a big thank you from them as well.
Good. Okay, thank you, Councillor Whitcroft. Okay, I think of all of the things that may get called in, I don't believe this one's going to get called in. All right, so Councillor Jennings-Evans has said the recommendations we're being asked to resolve small 1, small 2, and recommend to full council that the capital programme be increased by 28,000 to include the swing in Frimley Lodge Park. Are we in agreement, members? We are, and no surprise there.
Agreed.
Thank you. Okay. Right. Well done. And right, item 8, draft proposal to the EM3 local enterprise. Councillor Page, this is your paper.
Thank you very much, Leader. I hope you can all hear me. So yes, this is a proposal to the Enterprise M3 partnership for funding of smart travel project to provide electric vehicle charging points in the Deepcut and Mindenhurst development. So this work is really to future-proof the development and respond to the government and our own 2050 targets, really, to move away from diesel and diesel and petrol-powered cars to those that run on electricity, and of course that they'll need some charging points. So this is part of a sort of smart travel infrastructure. It's going to start on Mindenhurst, but it will be a very useful project to do to look to see where else this could lead us in the future. But the total value of the scheme is about 5.6 million, with 4.2 million being sought from the local enterprise partnership. And we are asked to consider a contribution of £10,000. And that's in kind, so it's more to do with not cash, but officer time and that sort of thing to go forward to support that. There are other partners in the bid, and if you look at the annex, there's plenty of information in there about who the other partners is. So it's Surrey Heath Borough Council for our 10,000 in kind. It's Surrey County Council with a similar match funding. Skanska are putting quite a bit of money into this, as well as money in kind. The DIO, Defence Infrastructure Organisation, and various other partners along the way. So I really would like to recommend that we do this, and I'm open to questions.
Okay, right, I've got Councillor Tapper and then Councillor Malvaginam.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I'm pleased to see that we are proposing to contribute to this particular project. Whilst doing so, I'm hoping we will make representations particularly to Surrey County Council regarding an item that I read in the Annex 1, page 68 and page 69 under the heading of Enterprise Holdings, which states that it appears that Surrey County Council is developing a mobile app for a variety of purposes, not least of which appears to be to take payment for electricity used in council-owned chargers. Now, I have to say I've lost count of the number of mobile apps that are out there, from various different charging networks saying you can only pay by using our app, and B, to plan a route which actually tells you the best way to get from A to B, passing by the most reliable chargers along your route to make sure that you make it from one end to the other. I would like us to be making a representation to Surrey County Council with regard to the charges that are to be installed, to say that in all cases there should be an alternative of payment by contactless credit or debit card as well, and that a mobile app is not a mandatory app in order to use them. One other point I'd like to make, it does talk very distinctly about the chargers that are to be installed being fast chargers. But when you actually read the information about the chargers that are planned, they are 7 kilowatt chargers, which are very far from fast. They are standard, basically standard domestic chargers. I have one of those installed in my garage, and it still takes overnight to charge a car. So if these are for public use, the amount of charge you will actually get from a 7 kilowatt charger in maybe an hour or half an hour or something like that is negligible. We should also make representations that we will be hoping that far higher rated chargers will be installed rather than these essentially domestic.
Okay, Councillor Page, do you want to pick up on those 2 points?
Yes, so we have looked at the issue of chargers and the technology around it, and we do know that we'd like to develop the chargers for a domestic use, so there will be a different type, and to look at fast charging for the public and for those people with those vehicles in the sort of public amenity spaces. So there are different type of charger and technology to be used. In terms of the app, I don't have too much information about it, but I agree with Councillor Tapper that it should be accessible, and I'm sure there'll be some work on that. It is the fact that Surrey Heath Borough Council will probably be leading in the way that the applications are provided, because we will take responsibility for looking after that going forward in terms of those aspects, as well as the Surrey County Council in terms of the nuts and bolts type aspect. But I hope that answers your question. If not, I think Jenny might be on the call. She might be able to add anything.
No, I think we got the thumbs up from Councillor Tapper there. We're fine. Okay, Councillor Malvaginam.
Thank you, Leader. I must say I really do welcome this move. It's high time we actually came into the 21st century. It's great stuff. From our point of view, I don't think we'll object to the 10 grand going into this project when it comes to full council. It's a great project. Only a couple of quick questions. One, Sansky is not doing it for the fun of it. They are putting 1.43 million. What's the outcome out of it? That's my main concern, not concern, a question. Second is SEC is developing the app and we are partnering with SEC. Now, as we all know, apps also collect data. We have to make sure that make a statement to the leader. We have to make sure that the data protection is actually strictly followed through. That's all I have to make. Those are my comments on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, I know Councillor Page, you'll take that up about, it's a good point that when it comes to data, it's very, very important that it's managed correctly. So I'm sure you'll add that to your discussions with Surrey County Council. Okay. All right. Okay. In terms of what Skanska, well, as you know, Councillor Malvaganam, Skanska is a publicly listed company. It's out to make a profit. It doesn't spend 1.4 million out of the goodness of its heart. Right? It is going to be a mixture of profitability and making the project that it's currently working on in Mildenhall as successful as possible in terms of sales. Is there something specific? Is it a general point that you just want me to make sure that we keep an eye on?
Yeah, it is a general point. I mean, we are dealing with commercial companies. I mean, as you know, Alan, sorry, as you know, Councillor McLafty, every commercial company has got an end game. We as a council don't want to be overpaying for something. They have to make a profit. I fully accept that. It's just that they see a council and they say, here comes money. That's my point.
Yeah, okay, good. I think, yeah, the thing I like about this paper is that we're being asked to provide, I know it says in kind, but what we're being asked to do is provide expertise in applying for money from the LEP. And we're very, very good at that. And that's what we're doing. But the LEP are the ones that are going to have to make sure that any money they grant is actually proportional and value for money. I think we'll bring that to a close now. I don't see any more hands up and I'm not hearing anybody shouting. So we are being asked, members, the recommendation is to resolve small 1, 2 and 3 and recommend to the full council that the £10,000 in kind match funding be added. Are we in agreement?
Agree.
Okay, good. That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, we now move to item 9, which is exclusion of press and public. If I say good evening to our members of public. Thank